Coming up on Carolina Week.
Updates on the armed robberies near UNC's campus.
I think it was definitely scary to realize that right outside my building there was an armed robbery.
Students react to proposed rules about protesting.
Some people might feel like it infringes on our right to assemble.
And students' reactions to the election.
I think there was a really big change on campus.
From the UNC Hussman School of Journalism and Media, connecting Carolina's campus and community, this is Carolina Week.
Welcome to Carolina Week. I'm Anna Catermeyer.
And I'm Landon Job. Our top story this morning is an investigation of an armed robbery that police say happened close to Carolina's campus early Saturday morning. The two suspects are still at large. We're heading over to reporter Bethany Pryor with more information. Bethany, how is it looking?
Landon, I'm here at Granville Towers where one of two robberies, as police say, took place. Now, I talked to people who work at the desk at Granville South Tower, which is where the main office is, and they said they didn't even know these events occurred. Now, investigators are searching for men who were believed to be connected to these robberies near UNC's campus. The first one was here at Granville at 221, and the second took place just 6 minutes later at the corner of Press Drive and Knoll Street off of South Merritt Mill Road. UNC police say the victims saw two men leaving a white SUV before assaulting the victims and stealing their belongings. UNC police also said the victims were treated for minor injuries. The search for the suspects is ongoing and no further information has been released. Students say that they woke up to an Alert Carolina notification that was sent over 3 hours later.
And it was 5, and it said it come out at 5:20, and then they were said the robbery happened anytime between 2 and 2:30. And obviously that's scary to think about that, if you're out at 2:30 in the morning and that's happening and you have no idea.
Alert Carolina updated their protocol at the beginning of the semester. I spoke to Daryl Jeter, UNC's Director of Emergency Management and Planning, at the beginning of the semester during a press conference, and he said that crime alerts are now going to be sent out as soon as they get the information from police officers. Back to you, Landon.
Thanks, Bethany. Chapel Hill police have asked that anyone with information on the robberies or suspects call 911 or contact the Chapel Hill Police Department. Proposed changes to the UNC system code of conduct could lead to a uniform protest policy at campuses across the state. The suggestion comes after spring protests surrounding the war in Gaza and vandalism to several buildings during a protest in September. The proposed policies will require prior notice for demonstrations, disciplining students for misconduct at other UNC system campuses, and mandate that protesters stay at least 50 feet away from any classroom entrance. UNC sophomore Charlotte Chiavetta says she understands why the board is considering the changes.
They would be reassuring in theory, just because, you hear about the professional protesters who may not go here, but maybe on campus because they find it's somewhere where they can have a bigger platform.
Same time, she says it could contradict the First Amendment depending on how it is implemented. Freshman Anand Jayashankar agrees.
Protests are things that are kind of spontaneous, and so having to need them to be reported to in advance, I feel like that kind of takes away the purpose.
We reached out to UNC System President Peter Hans and the Board of Governors about these policies, but didn't receive a response. Students for Justice in Palestine is calling for a boycott of UNC tomorrow. The organization posted a flyer on its Instagram page calling for a, quote, one-day work stoppage for UNC students to not attend class or on-campus jobs. This is an organization that is well known on campus for its protest in support of Palestine.
2 weeks after the presidential election, Campus Health is seeing a higher volume of IUD appointments being made. Some students have expressed fear over potential new policies and laws regarding women's reproductive health. Our own Mason Wagner reports.
Erin Causey said she's had difficulty scheduling an appointment to get an IUD, a form of birth control, at both UNC Campus Health and at her home doctor's office in Raleigh.
I knew that I had the luxury of being able to see an off-campus provider, so I did choose to use that option. And then, of course, there was a spike in people asking to see Campus Health for IUDs, so I am glad I did that.
According to Campus Health, they have seen an increase in demand for IUD services since Election Day. It recently added procedure slots and group education appointments to expedite the process and help meet demand.
Would be really scary for me personally.
Students also have the option to schedule a private consultation but must have an education visit prior to an IUD procedure. Campus Health said it saw a similar increase in demand following the national election in 2016 and a small but manageable increase following the 2020 election.
We don't know what will come in the next 4 years, so a lot of people are now doing it for peace of mind, especially since IUDs last 3 to 7 years, depending on the one, sometimes longer. So I feel like that's just like a peace of mind thing.
Donald Trump claims he does not support a national abortion ban. Rather, the issue of abortion should be left to individual states. He said because North Carolina elected the Democratic candidate Josh Stein for governor, she does not think contraceptive access in the state will change that much.
Our contraceptive access will change that much, hopefully. I do think that there's other states around us that won't have it, and that'll put a weight on North Carolina's healthcare system.
Last year, North Carolina Republican lawmakers passed a stricter abortion law. Republicans like Mark Robinson and Dan Bishop had expressed desire to further restrict abortion access. Both candidates lost in the election. Planned Parenthood Generation Action, or PPGA at UNC, provides access to free contraceptives and runs an anonymous Plan B distribution network available to all students. The club's event chair, Jasmine Patam, said,
"It's definitely not over yet. We can still hold our heads high and just continue to fight for what we believe in and for reproductive freedom."
In May 2023, North Carolina Republican lawmakers passed Senate Bill 20, implementing a 12-week limit on most abortions with additional restrictions. North Carolina's next governor, Josh Stein, has expressed opposition to Senate Bill 20. Florida is suing FEMA Administrator Deanne Criswell and former Supervisor Marnie Washington for skipping over houses of Trump supporters. Washington was fired after she reportedly redirected FEMA workers past houses that displayed Trump campaign posters and flags in Lake Placid, Florida. FEMA said, quote, "This is a clear violation of FEMA's core values and principles, which is to help people regardless of their political affiliation." Florida Attorney General Ashley Moody is now seeking legal action against FEMA for this incident.
Employees to discriminate against vulnerable Americans affected by a hurricane when they needed assistance the most.
I don't create policy. FEMA does. I just implement it in the field.
President Biden has requested FEMA for $100 billion to continue relief efforts for both Hurricane Helene and Milton.
In other news, President-elect Trump confirmed his intention to use the military and declare a state of emergency to carry out his immigration policies. CW's Akshay Gokul brings us the response from immigrant communities and advocates to upcoming changes to immigration policy under a Trump administration.
On day one, I will launch the largest deportation program in American history.
As Donald Trump returns to the White House, some immigrant communities and advocates here in North Carolina fear the policies he will carry out.
Kind of an uneasy point, just kind of considering for a lot of people like myself that are children of immigrants that potentially could also be really heavily reprimanded if certain policies that he's proposed come into place.
For Michael Ramos, an immigrant rights organizer at Duke University, this issue hits close to home.
I grew up 10 minutes from the US-Mexico border, and so because the border is so politicized in this country, I think it's just something that I've always kind of felt and seen. And it wasn't until I got to Duke that I kind of was able to reflect more deeply on that.
Trump has quickly made advances to his pursuit of mass deportation, naming Tom Omen as his border czar. Omen served as the acting director of ICE during the former Trump presidency and was behind the administration's family separation policy, the policy that separated roughly 5,500 children of immigrants from their parents at the border.
As a guy who spent 34 years deporting illegal aliens, I got a message to the millions of illegal aliens that Joe Biden's releasing our country in violation of federal law. You better start packing now.
Here in North Carolina, Republicans of the state legislature are pushing to override Governor Cooper's veto on House Bill 10. The legislation will require North Carolina sheriffs to cooperate with ICE.
It's unbelievable to me that any law enforcement officer who truly is trying to do everything that they can to keep their folks safe would not already cooperate with ICE.
By forcing our sheriffs to act as immigration enforcers, this bill undermines trust between law enforcement and the communities they serve.
As immigrant communities reconcile with this new bill along with the Trump presidency, Michael sees that advocacy will be the path forward.
Despite all of this repression that may exist by the government or pushback that may exist, people are still organizing and people are still coming in community together to keep themselves protected.
In Raleigh, I'm Akshay Gokul reporting for Carolina Week.
The House voted to override Governor Cooper's veto of HB 10 yesterday, and the Senate will vote on the override later today. When we come back,
this fulfills a promise that their neighborhood has been working on for over 20 years.
How redevelopment could bring life to the Roger Eubanks area.
It would be devastating to not be able to offer that program anymore.
A local food security program is starved for funds.
Updates at Poe Hall. What's next in the investigation about dangerous chemicals at NC State? Welcome back. Carolina Week spoke with several young voters last year about the presidential and local elections. This week, Mason Wagner and I followed up with these young voters to see how their opinions have changed following Election Day.
A week after elections, Aklil Tessima feels
very defeated, very disappointed.
She feels this way because the election did not go the way she thought it was going to. Tessima is one of the many students Carolina Week talked to in April as campaigns courted young voters.
I bet you if you asked 25% of this campus, they wouldn't even know that there was an election this year.
So much has happened since then.
I think people started realizing that North Carolina was a big game changer for the election, so people started showing up and showing out. And it also started becoming more of like a social thing.
And something else changed. The candidates vying for the White House. When we talked to then UNC senior, now graduate Alyssa Coleman, she told our team,
"Nothing resonates with me, nobody resonates with me. I just don't feel extremely represented by anyone right now."
Do you still resonate with that comment following the results of the election?
I got a little bit more excited because I thought that she would be a little bit more malleable than him on some of the issues that I care about.
The Harvard Youth Poll indicated in September that 56% of young people said they would definitely vote. But according to the Center for Information and Research on Civic Learning and Engagement, only about 14% voted in the election.
I was working 7 days a week, 13 to 14 hours a day. So it was like I didn't really have a chance to even look at anything.
D'Angelo Perez did vote, but certainly didn't feel engaged, he tells us. Months ago, he was overwhelmed by the demands of running his own business and didn't feel any of the campaigns were doing too much to reach out to him.
All I see is posters, all I see is banners.
Tessima has warned for months now.
There were so many people that were like openly like, oh, I'm not voting, I don't want to vote, I'm not registered to vote, which is shocking.
Young voters, she says, can sometimes be tough to engage, even when the stakes are so high for their future. In Chapel Hill, I'm Landon Jobe.
And I'm Mason Wagner with Carolina Week.
Youth turnout was far more higher in key battleground states. Now, in Chapel Hill, action on the Green Tract plan is underway and will continue through next year. The Green Tract is over 100 acres of land owned by Orange County, Carrboro, and Chapel Hill, located in the southeast part of Orange County. According to the town of Chapel Hill, the plan consists of land preservation, housing development, a recreational site, and possibly an elementary school. Last month, the town released a community engagement report finding that the people want to see the Roger Eubanks neighborhood rich history be restored, but community members do have concerns about traffic and safety. Community Relations Manager of Chapel Hill, Shay Stevens, says this is over 20 years in the making.
And really was a hard-fought project by a community that was traditionally marginalized.
According to the town, the project completion date is still unknown.
One community benefit program is at risk and could force neighbors to find a new way to obtain healthy food. Double Bucks is a Carrboro Farmers Market incentive for SNAP EBT recipients, allowing people to receive double their SNAP rewards for tokens to spend on fresh produce at the market, but the program is running out of money. Previous sponsors like Duke Health and Blue Cross Blue Shield have directed funds elsewhere, saying their energy needs to support other initiatives at this time. The program is now operating off leftover funds from last year and a GoFundMe, but organizers are hopeful for greater and more reliable support.
We want to be able to cultivate that trust in our community that we'll be able to offer this program very regularly. They don't need to worry about the funding elapse, running out or changing or shifting or anything like that.
The North Carolina Farmers Market Network is working towards a statewide nutrition incentive program, but in the meantime, the future of the Double Bucks program remains uncertain. On that note, inflation is increasing, now for the fourth month in a row. The U.S. Labor Bureau reports that the Consumer Price Index has risen again. The Consumer Price Index represents the amount consumers pay for goods. In October, citizens paid increased amounts for shelter, food, transportation, and energy services. Increases totaled 0.20%, bringing the yearly price index to a total rise of 2.5%. So we asked students what a good economy would look like for them.
Not have to worry too much about the market going up and down, and just being able to afford a house.
As long as I'm able to support myself and my means, as well as my family through holding a stable job, I think that's most important for me.
While people face increased inflation and high cost of goods, the Federal Reserve is working to dial back interest rates and decrease cost.
While students are voicing concerns about rising prices, let's head over to Wayne to see if the temperatures are heating up as well.
Thanks, guys. Now, fortunately for us, temperatures are actually not going to be rising, and we're finally going to start feeling like we're a week away from Thanksgiving. Now, today is the last day of the warmer weather we've been seeing, so as we're heading to our noon classes, it's going to be 68, and we're going to be pushing 72 by 3 p.m., but as we head later into the afternoon, there's a chance of showers, and the temperatures are going to be dipping down in the 50s. Now, this is due to a cold front that's pushing through our area today, so those showers are going to bring in some cooler weather for the days to come. But that cooler weather actually is bringing a chance of snow up in the mountains. But for us here in the Triangle, it's just going to be clear skies, and it's not going to be cold enough for snow. Now, as you look at the 5-day forecast, today's the last day of that warmer weather that we've been seeing and that chance of showers. But that cold front's going to bring us down into the 30s tonight. And as we head into the latter part of our work week, we're going to be in the low to mid 50s. Once again, seeing 30s at night with partly cloudy skies. And as we head into the weekend, those partly cloudy skies are going to persist, but temperatures are going to start creeping up, so reaching possibly 62 by Sunday, but our lows are still going to be in the 30s. Back to y'all at the desk.
Sophia, there's a lot going on in Carolina athletics as we're starting to make the transition between fall and winter sports.
That's right. Fall sports are coming to a close, and some athletes are receiving conference recognition. We even have some updates on spring sports right after the break.
Hi everybody, my name is
Welcome back to Carolina Week Sports Extras. Sophia Pedroso is here to update us on Carolina athletics. Sophia, how are those Tar Heels looking?
Thanks, Landon. First, let's talk about a player who helped lead the football team to victory on Saturday. After yet another jaw-dropping performance against Wake Forest, Carolina's Omarion Hampton is the ACC's running back of the week. Hampton torched the Demon Deacons all night, finishing with 244 yards and a touchdown on a career-high 35 carries. He's now moved into 5th all-time in career rushing yards at UNC. And this marks the 3rd time the Maxwell Award semifinalist has been named Running Back of the Week by the conference. The men's soccer team is heading to the 2024 NCAA tournament, earning an at-large bid. The Tar Heels will host Furman at Dorrance Field tomorrow in the first round. This marks Carolina's 31st NCAA appearance, continuing a tradition of success under head coach Carlos Samano, who's led the team to 13 tournament appearances in 14 seasons. UNC's baseball head coach Scott Forbes will be staying in Chapel Hill for at least 5 more years. On Monday, UNC Athletics announced that Forbes signed a 5-year extension, keeping him at the helm of the Diamond Heels through at least June 2029. Forbes is entering his 5th season and is the first coach in program history to reach the NCAA tournament in each of his 4 seasons. 4 Tar Heel women's tennis players are at the NCAA Championship in Waco, Texas this week. The singles championship started yesterday with Carson Tangalig and Theodora Radman advancing from the round of 64, while Tatum Evans did not. Doubles play begins today with Tangalig and Susanna Malpe in action, along with Radman and Evans. Championship play will continue until Sunday. Men's doubles also starts today. Patrick Schoen and Logan Zapp will travel to Waco, Texas to compete in the first round of the NCAA Men's Tennis Championship. They finished 3rd in the ITA East Sectional to qualify for the NCAA tournament. They've had a tough first round matchup where they faced Ohio State's Bryce Nakashima and William Jansen. The Buckeyes doubles team has won the last 2 championships. If the Heels progress past the first round, they will play in the round of 16 on Thursday. Make sure to tune in to Sports Extra on Friday at 11:30 for an update on UNC's tennis in the NCAA tournament and more. And stick around for more Carolina Week after the break.
Welcome back to Carolina Week. Coming up, we have an interesting story on ball pythons. But before that, let's head over to Samantha for an update on environmental policy.
Thanks, Landon. This week marks 1 year from the closure of NC State's Poe Hall. The building was closed after detecting PCBs on its interior and exterior. Now, PCBs are carcinogenic chemicals used from building construction from 1929 to 1979. While hundreds of former employees and students in the building have reported cases of these related cancers, according to local lawyers, there's yet to be a confirmed correlation to the building. 4 law firms in Raleigh are working together to represent these former students and faculty. They are conducting a private testing of the building and have yet to file a formal lawsuit. The university is awaiting results from a federal health hazard evaluation on how to move forward. They are updating current students and staff throughout the process, but they have yet to reach out to alumni. The EPA is also going to see some changes this year as Trump has nominated Lee Zeldin as its new administrator. Zeldin is a Republican former congressman of New York with an extensive background in law. He posted on X that he will, quote, restore U.S. energy dominance, revitalize our auto industry to bring back American jobs, and make the U.S. the global leader of AI. We will do so while protecting access to clean air and water. Now, during Trump's last term, his administration rolled back about 100 environmental rules and withdrew from the Paris Climate Agreement, which Biden has since rejoined. Zeldin has not mentioned any specific policies he plans to roll back, though an online statement by Trump says that he will, quote, ensure fair and swift deregulatory decisions that will unleash the power of American business while maintaining the highest environmental standards. Zeldin will have to be confirmed by the Senate to officially take this role. Back to you, Landon.
Thanks, Samantha. Now, sources of income can come from anything. And yes, anything includes ball python breeding. Our Isha Patanaik has more on these snakes.
And he's, relatively small in the python world.
That's Marius, a ball python. Talina Chavis works in humane snake removal and says these pythons can grow up to 6 feet. She says they're not native to North Carolina or even the U.S., but breeders and buyers love the different patterns on these ball pythons.
As humans, it's the same with cats and dogs. We find something pretty that we like, and we make more of it.
Co-founder of JAB Reptiles, Bo Griffin, who didn't want to be on camera, says that genetic breeding to create rare patterns on pythons is how breeders make money.
Then you also have a breeder market where they understand the genetics. So they could look at a snake, it looks like a normal snake, which would normally be like a $50 or $80 snake. But if it's full of all these recessive genetic traits, now that snake has value.
He says their most expensive snake is $8,000. Although Chavis says ball pythons aren't yet an invasive species, sometimes buyers release their snakes outside.
Honestly, ball pythons are being found more and more dumped. And of course, it's always the people's fault, not the animals. People, they got bored or they can't afford it, they lost their home.
Chavis says there are different laws in different counties, but generally exotic animals, including snakes, are fine to keep as pets as long as they aren't dangerous and less than 6 feet long.
I joke with folks, you could be passed out with one around your neck on the floor, you're going to be okay.
She says they come in every color and can even come with a smiley face emoji. I'm Isha Patanaik, reporting.
Now, Landon, I don't know about you, but I don't think I could ever have one of these as a pet. Do you?
No, I would be too scared. I would think that thing would get me in the middle of the night and I would not come out alive. I can barely do animals as it is, so having a snake wandering around in a cage in my house, never going to happen.
Absolutely not. I agree. I have a dog inside, and even that sometimes can be a little strange,
Yeah, I'm surprised Isha even went and did that, because for me, I would not be doing that myself.
For sure.
Thank you for tuning in to Carolina Week today, and we will see you next time.